Welcome to the Mad About Wayne podcast from the Wayne County Historical Society in Wayne County, Georgia. We hope this time together is informative, educational, and maybe even a little entertaining. Mad About Wayne is brought to you by ProSonics Audio Engineering. Now, let's get into today's Mad About Wayne podcast.
Okay, here we are back again. Episode 8, we're going to be hitting doctors and dentists. We're going to go from the head to the toe and go for the mouth and do some history with our medical professionals. Got a wonderful panel here with us for this podcast number 8. I am Janet Royal, who seems to be always starting off this thing with the announcement that I'm the vice president of the Historical Society because I conned John Benner into being president. I didn't tell him it was for life, but it might just be.
Surprise.
Yeah.
So, and John Benner is here. Would you like to say hello, John Benner, and say a few words?
Thank you, and I am the president of the Historical Society, and I'm glad to be here. I almost didn't make it today. I was on the river, because we've had a river talk on the podcast already, so that's where I was at. I went down to fix my lights, but I had to throw a couple rod and reels while I was down there, so I didn't come in smelling like fish because I didn't catch any today. So I'm glad to be here.
All righty. We have a special guest with us from Scriven, Derby Waters. Derby, would you like to say hello?
Hello.
Hello. That was all you want to say?
I can say that.
Well,
I'm happy to be here, too. So.
We're glad to have you. And on the end, frickin' frack,
Oh, gee, thanks.
Pam and Courtney.
Hi, all. Courtney Tyre.
Aren't we energetic and ready to go here? All right, we're going to start with doctors, and I've got one dentist to throw in. I got to write myself a note here on this early history of the doctors in the community. These are doctors that were in the countywide doctors. The first records that we can find on our medical community is Dr. William Spencer Middleton, who was born in 1824, died in 1884. He graduated from Southern Medical College in Baltimore in 1849. He actually was from Darien in McIntosh County. I'm not sure how he managed to get here, but he came here in the 1850s. He's the great-grandfather of Jean Adams Walker, who is Holly. What's Holly?
Drury?
April.
I
skipped a generation there.
April Walker.
I'm sorry about that, April. April Drury's mother, April Walker Drury. He married Mary Ann Drawdy, who was the daughter of another of the early doctors, George Washington Drawdy. And Dr. Drawdy is one of the Drawdys that was on Cadillac Curve. He had an office on the corner of West Orange and South Macon Street. And he was in the same time period as somebody I have never heard of, but he's in the history book, so he must be historical, is Dr. Robert Lester. And he was a medical officer in the Civil War, and he came back to Jessup after the war and was here for a while. Dr. Drawdy, George Washington Drawdy, he went to medical school in Philadelphia. And his office was in the old Whaley building.
Oh, okay.
And they said it was just beyond Breen's Hardware. Did we remember where Breen's Hardware was?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know that you remember where Breen's Hardware was.
Sure do.
Which one was that?
When you go down, I think it's the chiropractor down there on the right now. It's right there, I think.
Right down in there?
Yes.
Looking over the railroad.
He was the first president of the Wayne County Medical Association. He was that was formed 1909, 1910. And he was with other members of that group, which were Dr. Stowe and Dr. Colvin and Dr. Tootin, who was actually a dentist, and he built the Tootin Block building, which is still there across the catty corner from the depot. And then two doctors that I don't know, Dr. Dan Moore and Dr. Magruder Brown. So that was Dr. George Washington Drawdy, and he passed away in 1910. Then we had Dr. Stowe. If you go down Plum Street, East Plum, there's a 2-story house that is now apartments. When you leave First Baptist and go down Plum, it's the second block past the church on the right. That's the Dr. Stowe house.
Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And it's apartments. It does not look anything like it did when he lived there. And he went to medical school late in life, and he graduated from medical school at the same time his son graduated from Georgetown, and another one of his sons graduated from Mercer Law School. So he was kind of long in the tooth, I guess you'd say, whenever he got to be a doctor. But Dr. Stowe, his daughter Minnie Stowe McCann, she married J.Y. McCann, and she taught school. She's one of the ones on my mother's permanent record that we saw this week. M. Stowe, Minnie Stowe McCann, and their house is on, I believe, Elm Street.
The McCanns?
Don't go knock on the
that's
door
true.
and ask if they're home.
No.
But I think it's on Elm Street. Two of the Odom doctors that we know about are both Ogdens, Dr. Holland Ogden and Dr. Isom Ogden. And I believe that they both were doctors in Odom, Madrid Springs, that area, and they also came to Jessup and did some doctoring. I believe Dr. Isom Ogden might be buried at Piney Grove. I want to think that that's where he would be. Dr. Alexander Jackson Gordon, whose home is on East Cherry Street in the middle of the block there. It has a historical marker.
Not yet.
Historical marker in front of the house. And he was from the Washington, Georgia area, and he came down here with Dr. Jeff Rogers, asked him to come and be a part of the new hospital they were building at the site of where the Rich Lee Park Hospital ended up being, where the bank is now. Where I was born. Were you born there? I know you were born in Detroit,
Wait a
Michigan, so you can just...
No, but I had the Rich Lee Park steps going down to the river that was on the back of the hospital. Those are my steps that go to the river.
Oh, that's cool.
When they tore the hospital down, you got the steps?
Well, the dents did.
Okay.
And now you got.
Now,
Yes.
you talking about where the insurance is now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Annie B.
That was American
Okay.
National
Yeah, I remember
Bank.
Annie B.
Yes,
I thought
that's
that was
exactly
cool.
right. That's exactly. And Dr. Gordon is also the namesake for the SAR chapter here. And they give out high school scholarships every year, multiple of ones of those. Do I have Tootin or y'all have Tootin? Dr. Tootin was a dentist, and his office was in the Tootin Block building. He had it built. If you look up there, it still says Block, but the Tootin part is gone. And there was always talk that he wasn't really a dentist, but according to the Wayne County History book, he does have legitimate credentials to carry on being a dentist. So that would be Dr. Tootin.
Well,
Going over to Scriven, go ahead.
The Dr. McLaughlin.
All right,
that I
do Dr.
mentioned.
McLaughlin.
Well, don't know a lot about him other than when I was a child, 5, 6, 7 years old, he was my dentist. I remember him pulling a tooth for me. And back then it was kind of traumatic to have something like that done. But I see in this book that he charged $1 for pulling a tooth, so I guess it cost me $1, or my dad.
I
back
guess
then.
the tooth fairy went right out the window with that $1.
I guess so. That dentistry was nothing like it is now. Back then, it was a truly traumatic situation for anybody, particularly being a child. But he was a
Do
dentist.
you remember where his office was?
Yeah, it was on Cherry Street, across from, it'd be behind the Baptist church, across from the Methodist church,
Okay.
the first block down. So I don't think the building is there anymore.
I don't think it is either. So, Dr. Tyre, we're going to go to Scriven and do Dr. Joseph Lawton Tyre, who was a doctor for 42 years after graduating from medical school in 1910. And the post office in Scriven is where his first office was. And he had his own drugstore inside his practice, which they said was usual and customary at the time. Mm-hmm. And then later on, when he needed to have more space, he added an office onto his house. And he added a surgical suite onto his house. And Miss Polly Cook was one of his nurses, and she said that when they did surgery, that they opened all the windows to let in the fresh air. Mm. And he had a skylight so that he could have plenty of light. But, we've come a long way in the world of being clean and antiseptic and antibacterial. We don't open all the windows to let the fresh air in now to do surgery. But he delivered lots of babies. He was went everywhere with his doctor bag. His little black bag went with him to church. It went with him when he went on house calls. Wherever Dr. Tyre went, his little black bag went with him. And he married Miss Bertie Walker, who was from the Walker Company, which was an old farm company. And I came to Scriven in 1980, and Miss Bertie was still alive. And they were very influential in the Methodist Church in Scriven. In fact, when the church burned, Dr. Tyre pretty well rebuilt it. Dr. Tyre, and it was right after, during the time of World War II. Miss Effie May talked about going. Miss Effie May was his daughter. Talked about going around and getting donations from the community, and the community actually built the church back. Them and the Graces, Lindsay Grace.
Do you know the year? Well,
the year that it burned,
yeah.
it burned during World War II. It was rebuilt in 1944.
Okay.
That's why the cemetery is out
Where
that
it is,
way,
yeah.
is because that's where the church originally was. And so the left-hand side of the cemetery is actually the property of the Methodist Church.
Gotcha.
And the road cut through there. But Miss Bertie sang, and she died in 1984, but I can remember her singing How Great Thou Art when she was 92 years old
Well,
in the Methodist Church. But Dr. Tyre was... he was a legend. There are a lot of people around that were named Joseph Lawton after him. And the house is still there, but it's been, I don't know what to call it. I'm not a real estate person. It's been divided up into communal living. I don't know what all they share, but they each it's kind of like a hostel kind of thing, I guess.
that's what I think.
They share a kitchen and that kind of stuff. But it's right there on J.L. Tyre Street. They call it Long Street, but it's J.L. Tyre Street. But when he came, there was a doctor there named Dr. A.C. Colson. And I had not heard of Dr. A.C. Colson being in Scriven, but he was predecessor of Dr. Tyre's. And he left because he was looking for peace and quiet. And I'm guessing he didn't find that in Scriven. So he went to Glenville, and he practiced until he was 96. And he was married to he was married to Nan Milliken. And I didn't think to say it when I was talking about Alexander Jackson Gordon, but his office and his home was right next to Geneva's drugstore, Jones Drug, JJ's place now.
Yeah.
And upstairs was where Roscoe had his office.
Yeah.
And
Is that the one with the teeth?
He would, yeah. That was Dr. I think that was Dr. McLaughlin with the teeth.
Probably was.
That they said they were in the
they
wall?
found him in the wall.
Oh, Derby's
when
tooth
they
fell
were
out the wall.
remodeling.
Yeah.
Whenever he
that was
pulled a
Carnegie.
tooth, he threw it in the
Well,
wall.
Carnegie was down below. He was down there where,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Carnegie's
but
in
Dr.
Fort Myers.
Gordon, people would come to his house. He was just right next door, so they would come to his house. And they said he died of a massive heart attack 30 minutes after his last patient.
Oh,
Wow.
So Dr. Gordon,
Right up to the end. Yeah.
he worked until he couldn't. He did that old joke about, I'm going to have to work to lunch on the day of my funeral. I think that might be where it came from, because Dr. Gordon did just that. He was that kind of doctor. All right, who are we going to next? We going to hit Dr. Hargret next?
That's fine.
Is that chronologically,
That's fine.
or you want to go to Dr.?
Oh, I don't know.
No,
That's fine.
you want
can
him to
ahead.
go?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, Derby's going to go with Dr. Hargret.
The thing I remember about Dr. Hargett was when I was in high school, he treated me. I was so sick, I was delirious. I don't know how I got there, but I was in his office, and he treated me, and I got well immediately, or in a day or two. But he said, it's what if you were old timer, what they used to call ptomaine poisoning. It's actually food poisoning, but that was my adventure with him. That many people who went there to see Dr. Hargett, and there would be lines all day long, all night long to see him, but he would put them in closets. He had didn't have enough space for them, so he put them everywhere he could in that house that's still there. No,
No, the
it
Dollar
was torn
General's
down.
there.
Yeah, it was torn down lately. But anyway, Dr. Hargret was a very interesting person. His life was full. He was born July 28, 1916 in Tifton. And he wound up here in 1938 to begin his medical practice. But as a child, this is stuff I didn't know till I just looked it up. He was a Baptist boy minister. He actually preached for the Baptist churches in the area. Later on, of course, he was a staunch, long-time member of Christ Church on St. Simon's Island, but I guess he converted from being a Baptist. He also had his own band called the Rhythm Kings. I can't imagine that with Dr. Hargett, but it's funny what you read and find out. He graduated from medical school when he was 20 years old. He was not an MD. He was what was called a DO, a doctor of osteopathic medicine. And the only difference in that in the medical doctor, they've got very similar educational requirements, but osteopaths relied less on conventional means, more holistic type therapies.
Way before they were using the word holistic and wellness.
Yeah.
The things insurance don't pay for now.
Well, the thing about Dr. Hargett, when he was doctoring, which was for 68 years while he was here, but he was very profound in his ability to determine what was wrong with you. A lot of doctors would guess this or that or the other, but generally when he said it's this, that's what it was. So I remember that people talked about that, and that's one reason that so many came to see him for so long, is he was hands-on and he was accurate in what he did, and his treatment would be what you needed in general. So the thing I didn't mention was one thing I didn't mention was early on, he was an aviator. He actually went early in World War II to the Royal Canadian Air Force before he flew for the United States. He went to England so that he could get right in it. He was a P-40 pilot. You know what a P-40 is?
I remember them. I've heard of them, but I don't remember.
Yeah, that's me. I have no idea, but anyway, he was a pilot. One of the things being an osteopathic doctor got him into a confrontation with the hospital board here. For years, he was not allowed to practice there. But do you know if that was after he went to the legislature that he changed the laws or got them changed?
It was after he left Scriven, I believe. But for a while, he had an office at the hospital, but they didn't really like it that he had an office at the hospital. But for, you know what, are you going to go back to the closet, or I need to talk about the closet because that's one of my favorite things about.
Yeah, you can talk about the closet, but
go ahead.
I was going to say that after a while, he was not only accepted at the hospital, but I'm trying to find what they call it. He was chief of staff at Wayne Memorial later on, so he was.
So it had to be early on.
Yeah, he was accepted. So back to the closet.
His office was straight down School Street from the school, of course. That's how it got its name, School Street. And he did not make appointments. It was first come, first serve. And he didn't come to his office until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then Dr. Whitaker, who had the drugstore, he would stay open until midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning because Dr. Hargrett's patients were becoming down. But they would start coming at 8 o'clock in the morning whenever we'd be moving around the school, the old school. You would look down School Street and there was an old big oak tree down there with a lot of shade, and people would be parked under the oak tree at 8 o'clock waiting for Dr. Hargett to get there. And he had Miss Mildred Sharp, Miss what is Elaine Brandon's grandmother's name? Miss Marybelle Nichols. They worked for Dr. Hargett.
That's right.
And he had a stenographer's notebook, the kind that's got the wire at the top, and that's how they kept their records of who paid what. And whenever they took the deposit, they would go to American National where our mother was, and they would give her the stenographer's notebook and the deposit, and she would make the deposit match Dr. Hargrett's spiral-bound knot. But anytime you went to Dr. Hargrett's office, if you were sick or if you just went to pay your bill, he put you in a closet and you got a B12 shot.
I was going to say, I always
Everybody-
heard you just got a shot.
Everybody
Sometimes
who went to
they
Dr.
Yeah.
Hargret. He
Mom said
he
that.
had a memory like a steel trap and smart as a whip. And he was I don't know that I've ever known anybody as smart as Dr.
He was
Hargret.
very, very intelligent. He was, you hear politicians talking today saying, I'm a true conservative. He was a true conservative. And he finally, I guess, got enough of the way things were going in the 60s that he got himself elected to the Georgia legislature. I don't know how many years he served.
He served 3 terms.
3 terms. But he was there. He got some laws or regulations passed concerning being a doctor. I think that was when he did that. I'm not positive. Don't hold me to that. But anyway, he was effective there. He lived to be 90 years old before he died. Had a wonderful family, wonderful practice, was loved by thousands from all over South Georgia. So
I always felt a little bit slighted when he died that they did not bring him home to Scriven for a visitation because he was so intertwined with everything and everybody that was anybody, particularly in Scriven. He's buried at Christ Episcopal Church on St. Simon's.
right.
And I always felt like he needed to come home so everybody could say bye to him, because he was. And that's Dr. Guerin. They brought Dr. Guerin in. He was going to take over Dr. Hargrett's practice there in Scriven, and it just didn't work out. And he ended up coming to Jessup and having a good practice. But the people in Scriven didn't have that relationship with Dr. Guerin that they had with Dr. Hargret. And so it just didn't work out. But it was for a long time.
He was there for 68 years.
That
so.
and Dr. Whitaker was really a pharmacist, and but he was Dr. Whitaker, and he could just about cure you as good as Dr. Hargret could, and Donnie the same way.
Yeah.
You know, I wish that I had Donnie. Donnie Whitaker was Dr. Whitaker's son, and I called it Donnie Elixir. He could mix up something that could cure
Whatever you had.
athlete's foot, ringworm, anything. So that
Scriven-
country doctrine is what
Scriven was
these
fortunate
people
for
were.
years that
So-
they had Dr. Hargret and both Dr. Whitakers. We always call them Dr. Whitaker because they were so capable. So unfortunately, they're all gone now. So.
It is unfortunate. So, all righty. Courtney Gibbs Tower, where we going next?
Well, let's see. We'll go chronologically. How about that? So we did talk about the hospitals there for a little bit, and can I say real quick, the reason why we came up with this idea is because Pam has started a new job at the hospital, and she was talking about, all those pictures, all the doctors of Wayne Memorial, we really need to think about them. And I said, you know what, that's good. Because I can remember growing up and going to the old hospital. Well, not for me, y'all old, but for me, sorry. Sorry. I mean like Wayne Memorial, the old hospital to me. And first thing you walked in, you saw the 2 lines of pictures just all the way down the hall of all the doctors. And I go, I know that one and I know that one, which really doesn't say a whole lot for my health. But, I knew them. And
One thing you can get changed while you're there are those pictures that are unfortunately fading
Faded, yeah.
so badly.
I know
and
that's
they need to be taken care of.
yes, because they really are. They're the founding medical professionals of our
Yes.
county, and they, and it's sad. We always talk about the history around here that we don't keep things up and we don't take care of stuff, and that's what we really need to strive for people to start doing. But with some of these doctors that have come in, going back to the older ones with the hospitals, y'all had the first one. Well, y'all didn't. Y'all weren't around yet. But the Calvin Rich Sanitarium over there, I think it was off of Bay Street. That was Dr. Calvin. and Dr. Rich and Dr. Coffin, I think, was from
And
Odom.
Dr. Causey had a sanitarium also.
Okay,
What
one of
about
them.
the
One of them was
McCrary
right
one?
there.
And the
McCrary.
McCreary.
Okay. But that was said because I was looking some stuff up and it said the first hospital or whatever at the time was 1924 and it was Calvin Rich Sanitarium. And Dr. Calvin was from Odom.
Yeah.
Glenn had talked about him at the Historical Society. And that is Mark Priester's people and
Grandfather.
Carol Pascal's grandparent. I think Ruth was a Calvin.
Ruth was a cop.
She was Ruth Pascal was a Calvin. That was her father, and they were here for a while, and then it went into the Rich Leapart Hospital, and Dr. Rich came in. Dr. T.G. Rich, who is the school name for him or his son.
Him.
Him. Okay, I thought that would be right, but I wasn't sure.
The same difference.
Right.
Could be.
Well, he came in around 19, I think it said 34 is when he came to town, or is that Doc? No, that was Doc, sorry. Dr. Rich came in, and he was from, he was from Kville.
He was
one of your
from the Rich
He was
community.
one of your people. How bad?
He is one of my people.
Not related, but that side of town. He was the founding president of the chamber, actually,
Oh.
here in Wayne County. Said he was the president from 1948 to 1950. His wife was from Jessup. Her name was Nora Strickland. And they had 3 children, one who became a doctor as well. I guess it's Una.
Dr. Una.
Una, sorry. And then Bonus, who later married Jimmy Sullivan, and they had Sullivan's clothing downtown, and that's
And S&R.
and S&R, that's right. And then they had T.G. Jr.
Yes.
And
And
so,
I went to T.G. Rich Elementary School.
yes, and a lot of people, I was always jealous that I didn't get to go to Orange Street or T.G. Rich. My mom wouldn't let me go. I had to go
TG Rich. It was
to
great.
go to Jessup Elementary.
I'm a T.G. Rich graduate.
See, everybody I know is. I was
On
jealous.
Orange Street
I only got to go see
Dr.
Patricia in
Una
the
was a
afternoons.
pediatrician,
in Jessica.
and she died young. She died of cancer.
Oh, that's
And she was married to Dr. Yeomans, Dr. Woodrow Yeomans.
right.
And when our sister Susan came home from the hospital, she had a hard time adjusting. And she cried and cried and cried. It might be an omen, but Susan doesn't listen to these, so I can talk about her. So anyway, Mama
call
took
her.
her to Dr. Una and told her that she wouldn't rest. She put her in the crib and she wouldn't rest. She screamed and hollered, and Dr. Una told her to put her in a Chester drawer, a drawer from a Chester drawer.
Right.
That she couldn't deal with the space. She had to have that close.
Something snug.
And so that was how Dr. Una stopped Susan from crying.
Oh, wow.
But Dr. Yeomans' house, that house is on Cherry Street,
Are
Okay.
you talking about
across
Dr.
from
Young?
Calvary
Now,
Baptist.
no, I wasn't. I don't.
He was, well, since you mentioned him, I was just saying,
No, go ahead.
he sewed up my knee when I got it. I jumped out of the back of a truck and hit an axe. So,
Oh,
and in the stormy weather, and it went to Dr. Woodrow Yeomans. He was always my doctor back
right.
then.
Oh, that made my knee hurt, Darby.
Well, I can still walk on it. He sewed me up with.
Oh, that's good. Now the Riches, they lived on Cherry Street. That's where Kel Hare. I don't know who lives there now. Kel did. Kel Harris
That
did.
was, I don't know who lives there
Somebody's
now.
bought it.
Grandmother Rich was the brick house. The Dr. Yeomans' house is where the Popkins live.
on Cherry.
Oh, okay.
And then the house directly across whatever street that is, not Cherry, but the side street.
Right.
That was Grandmother Rich's
Is
house.
that Elm?
And
Wait.
then the one across
No,
the
that's
street from that
Grandmother
one
Rich's.
is Faunus and Jimmy's house.
Oh, okay. That's right. All right. Yeah.
So
And so Miss Rich that taught school and did the yearbook. That's
she was on Plum
No,
or
was she
Orange. She's
related?
on Orange Street.
because I remember going to
Down
that
by the
house
old
when I was
junior high.
little with Allison. Anyway, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's my stomping grounds. I rode my bicycle there when I was a child. So, living on Wayne Street.
And jumping from Dr. Rich to Doc Leapart, who happens to be my great uncle, I think, or great uncle. I don't remember. It'd be great uncle. Yeah. He was actually, I didn't know this until today. He was gone before I came along, so I've only heard stories of Doc.
You're so young.
I know, right? Thank you. But anyhow, he was from Augusta, and he's the one that came here in 1934, and he served 2 terms as mayor. And he actually, come to find out, he interned at the Atlanta Coastline Railroad Hospital in Waycross.
How about that?
Railroad
tie-in.
I know, I was interested in that. He and his wife, he married my great aunt Betty Gibbs. Her mother was the first congresswoman of Georgia, Florence, and they had they had 4 children. One didn't make it very long, but they had Alvin Jr., they had Florence, and then Patricia, who's still with us, and Ben, who is also still with us. He's a lawyer in Greenville, South Carolina, and Alvin and Ben kind of took after the Gibbs side and became lawyers, but his granddaughter, Lynn, is a very successful perinatologist in Savannah at Memorial Hospital. She actually helped me deliver my child. And then his other grandson, he is not other grandson, he's got more than one grandson, but the other, Alvin the third, is a lawyer as well.
Where does he
Little
live?
Alvin. He is in New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay.
Yes. But anyway, back to Doc. Mama talks about Doc all the time, and how she lived practically at the the Rich Lee Park Hospital, because she just was a sickly child, and that she said that Doc was a very well-known diagnostician, that he could practically diagnose anything, and that if she came in sick with something, he knew exactly what usually was wrong. And he told my grandmother not to take out her tonsils whatsoever, because that was her first line of defense from infections. But however, I guess my aunt had some issue, and he did all kinds of stuff on her, did appendix and did tonsils and whatever else. Apparently my grandmother was friends with a lot of people that like to use her children for things. And I'll tell you another one in a second. But anyhow, she said that Doc had a really good sense of humor, that, and I am going to say this on air, I don't care, that when my aunt came out, she had blonde hair, and these blue eyes and these full lips, and they were wondering where she came from, and that nobody in the family did that. And she said Doc automatically dropped to his hands and knees and kind of crawled out the room. I mean, it wasn't true, but he just, gave everybody a good laugh.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk a lot about him, and Mama said there's a lot of people named in Wayne County for Alvin. That's their names. And they later on dedicated the bridge that crosses the Altamaha from Jessup to Ludowici in name of Doc, because he actually had an office in both Jessup and Ludowici. He was also instrumental in bringing Rainier here while he was mayor. And the Lee Parks still own a lot of that land right there along the Altamaha River. But that's my spiel about Doc.
Well,
I didn't
that's
know
kinda
the man, but he seemed to be a character from what I understand. Moving on from him, I was going to talk about Dr. Pompelli for just a second. Is that okay? He brought me into this world. He and my grandfather, Warner Gibbs, actually loaded the train up to go and get Ben when he had his massive stroke and died in D.C., Ben Gibbs. And they went to get the body and bring it home. So he and my grandparents were friends from way back. He was a character. He had a place down at the coast with us, so I knew him quite well until he passed away. Mama said the day that I was brought into this world, that he and Daddy kept talking about fishing, and that there was a tournament, and that's why he had induced Mama, so that he wouldn't miss his tournament. So that's how I got
Good
here.
reason.
Yeah. And several things when, like down at the coast, she said his sense of humor was funny, that down at the coast, he would, I broke out in something like rubella or something she didn't know, and she went to her down there and said, she's got some fever and some rash, I don't know what to do. He goes, they all get it, she'll be fine, just put her in the bed, she'll be all right. We'd all get excited, Jody Riggins, and I don't know if she remembers this or not, or Ammons, Jody and I think Harper Johnson was there too, because Jimmy and Connie were still coming down there. We would get excited when Dr. Pompelli would come up, and it would be 4th of July. And I was like 3 and 4 years old. And he would pull up in his Cadillac, silver Cadillac, and he'd pop the trunk because we'd be screaming. And in the back of the Cadillac, he would have a box full of fireworks and would turn us loose with them.
Ooh.
I mean, we were little. And we'd like, oh, you've been to South Carolina. You've been to, he's like, here, take it, you know.
That's nice. I wish he could do that now.
He was,
after we get rain.
yes, but he was a good man. I enjoyed knowing him, and he loved my mama's garlic cheese grits. He would go out and fish and get trout or whatever and bring it back to fry, and he'd say, Jeannie, you got your grits ready? And she'd say, yes, sir, I'm getting it right now. And so we'd have us a little fish fry down at the coast. But I liked Dr. Pompelli. That was the only hospital or office I remember screaming in because his nurse at the time, I'm not sure who it was, had to give me a shot, and I ran. That was the only one I remember. But yeah,
And you ran?
I did run. They were holding me down. It was bad.
There's a lot of that going on. I got held down myself in Dr. Yeoman's office, and it did not go well for me later on when Malvia got me home. But that holding down for a needle is a important life skill, if you ask me.
Now it doesn't bother me at all.
It doesn't bother me a lot either. So, all right, you're happy with your Rich, your Calvin, and your Lee parts?
That's about all I got on the Rich, Calvin, and Lee parts. Yep.
All right. Mr. Benner, you ready to talk about one of our favorites?
Yes.
We're going to talk about Dr. Harrell.
Excuse me. Yeah. Dr. E.L. Harrell. Wow. I'm sorry. So, well, I had this thing up right here.
Some water.
Yeah.
Courtney just waterfalled it. She didn't put her lips on
I
it.
did not.
I said you didn't put your lips
I
on
know.
it.
I did it like the kids do on the waterfall.
I couldn't do that because I drowned myself. It's like
Dr. Harrell is
waterboarding
a
yourself.
Southern gentleman. That's what I call him anyway, but he was the mayor of Bugs Bluff. We live on Bugs Bluff, the bluff on the Omaha River, just above Riverside, the first landing that would take your boat down and put it down in there. That slough is called Bugs Bluff, where the bluff is, and the slough is down below it. So, and that's what I talked about earlier, the Leapart steps that go down. Anyway, we grew up with Roy and Mike, and we'd come to the river, and I didn't have a boat. They had a boat, so I befriended them so we could get on the river with them. And they taught me how to ski and water ski, so we skied on everything all growing up. But then Dr. Harrell, we'd always come back and have dinner around the tables and all that. It was always a family affair in there. But Doc came to Jessup in the 30s out of Waycross. It was Waycross High School. He came to Jessup, and he taught school here, and he coached. And he drove a school bus. In fact, he drove my mother-in-law's school bus. She told me that. He told me that story. And he talked about a memory now. He had a memory. Yeah. And he passed away in 2023 at age 96. So, and he was, the last couple of years, he couldn't, I'll come back to that, but he started coaching, and he was doing the coaching, and then he was trying to get in medical school. And he was teaching and coaching. That's where he met Miss Harrell, which was Robert Warren's daughter, and they got married. So, and then he got accepted at medical school, and then they went up to Augusta, and he would tell me all these stories, and that's why I loved going down there, all the stories he always had. He was a voracious reader. He read, I bet, 2 to 3 books a day. So he was my Google before Google. If I ever had a question, I would go down, and he knew it. I mean, he didn't have to look it up. But after that, like I said, he went to medical school. He actually went to Clemson on a football scholarship too, by Frank Howard recruited him up there. He didn't last long. He told me. He said he wasn't very good. So, but anyway,
Well, do you know? Did he play in high school at Waycross?
At Waycross High.
Okay.
Yep. He ran track and that, and I think here he coached football, basketball, and track. And then drove school bus also.
Yeah, I thought young he was a good athlete. So.
Yes, and then he delivered a lot of babies here in Wayne County.
He delivered John Royal.
Mm.
And I blamed him with John Royal every chance I got. And he told me that all he did was get him started. He didn't finish him, he started him.
Mm.
Well, the procedure that he did on me was worse than having a baby. That was later on when he got into radiology.
Yeah, and at the end of his, he became a doctor, like I said, after coaches and all. He came back here and delivered tons of babies here in Wayne County.
Yeah.
We said, and then we had rented the house we're in now, and so and Tina got to know Dr. Harold. We was going down there and doing all that. We went to St. Simon's for 15 years. We came back and bought the same house, so it was a pleasure always going down to seeing them and all that. And anytime we had the illness, I could go down and he would tell me what it was before I'd go to the doctor, and he'd either tell me, yeah, you got that, you need to go see this person right here, and so that's what I always liked about him. I will tell one story though about my daughter Jessica. We moved here when I think she was 5 or 6. Anyway, she started having these symptoms, and we took her to a couple of doctors, and the doctors kept saying leukemia. And we were all just getting ready to take her up to Emory and Atlanta and all that. And Doc down there, he says, John, don't you have a cat? I said, yes, sir. He said, have that girl check for cat scratch fever. And they didn't know what it was, but that's what it was. Mm-hmm. So no part of leukemia. So he, like you said, the old doctors, they knew and could tell. Like I said, then he became a radiologist. He was a radiologist, for 20 or 30 years in Wayne County. But still, as I was growing up, like I said, down there, after we moved back, toward his later years, when he got in his 80s, 90s, like I said, we tried to get him into the Wayne County Hall of Fame. He wouldn't let us. And I'd go to Mike and them, we'd be sneaking around, and I'd tell Mike, and they'd give me some stuff, and finally Mike says, John, Doc said no. And when he says no, it's no. So we had to quit that. We ended up giving him a plaque for something else and I think we got around that to being the chamber, chair. What is the parade? What is the head of the parade?
Susan.
Yeah. Anyway,
Susan.
Grand Marshal.
Yeah, he was Grand Marshal of the parade. he was Distinguished Service Award. I think it's the award he won through the chamber. So with that. Other than that, like I said, he was toward the end. He would let me drive him to town. I'd drive him around. He kind of quit driving. He would let me and Mike, his older son Mike, drive him around. But then every now and then he'd get in the car, and then he would drive from his house down to mine, which was 200 yards. So, and then we'd invite him down. He would come to our house to eat. We'd have supper once a week. He'd always come down to us. He wouldn't go to other people's because we had a low step getting in. So he liked that. And then other times, I said, well, Doc, I've seen you drive before when you go to town. He said, John, I can't turn my head left. So I got it all mapped out. I turned to the right off the Rainier Road, and I keep going around until I get back home. I thought that was the funniest thing.
Y'all only had supper once a week. That's
I heard that.
Well,
yeah.
that was the big meal of the
With
week.
him.
So he would come down. Like I said, we started a
I'm
thing.
going to tell Tina that you said that.
Yeah.
John, my husband worked for him when John was an X-ray tech, one of his other vocations. He's had several, and he worked for Dr. Harold, and so I could blame him with more than just birthing him. But he was an important member of the Historical Society.
Yes, he was.
And he could answer questions about history that nobody else wanted to. But we had the Wayne County history class. We had the Sanborn fire insurance maps, and he wanted to see those maps. So I brought him the whole bunch of those maps, and he took those things home and studied them. And he did one of our programs. He talked about Robert Warren, and Robert Warren was a former sheriff. That's where my John, I'm talking about John a lot on this one, but his name is John Robert. He's named for John Clarence Reddish and Robert Warren, which explains a lot about his behavior if you know anything about Robert Warren and John Clarence Reddish and his daddy. But Dr. Harold was level. He was level. He was steady. He was like Dr. Harker. He was a great guy.
I would take him to the football games. He loved to go to the Wayne County football games, and I would drive him. And we got there where they'd come out, and I told him once, I said, Doc, I can get them to meet you at the gate, and they can drive you up to a car right to your seat. He said, no, John. He said, once I quit walking, it's all over with. Mm-hmm. So he walked, like I said, until probably 2 years. So he died at 96. He's probably still doing it at 94, coming into the games. He'd sit up there, be cold. He'd have that old hat on and scarfed up and watch the game. And I'd drive him back home. I wouldn't even sit up there with him. Sometimes I would, but sometimes I'd be sitting and we'd find one another again and go back home.
Well, he's the doctors that we're talking about. Yeah, most of us here are fortunate enough to have been alive while he was alive, and him being in the historical society was a big plus.
And you mentioned he was a reader and the historical. His family donated so many books to the Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
We need a library that we could name in honor of him so that, people could use them, because right now they're still boxed up, but just boxes and boxes of books.
Was he a member of the baseball? Remember he did the program on the Jessup Bees or whatever?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he would tell us all the story. And everybody used to say, "John, you're so nice to be down there helping him." But no, I was getting an education every time I took him somewhere, because he would tell me about the stories, like you said, about the Jessup Bees, and that was the pro baseball team or semi-pro team that used to be out of Jessup.
Right.
So on that,
Mama
so.
had a crush on Dr. Harold.
Oh, my.
She liked all the doctors.
That'd be on that piece of news. We're going to take a break and hear from our sponsor of our podcast, ProSonics.
The Mad About Wayne podcast from the Wayne County Historical Society in Wayne County, Georgia, is brought to you by ProSonics Audio Engineering. From radio and podcast production to the recovery, restoration, and enhancement of tape recordings, video soundtracks, and phone recordings, ProSonics Audio Engineering is your go-to for all things audio. For more information, call or text 912-297-9911 or email prosonics@icloud.com. ProSonics, the science of sound.
All righty, we're back. We need to give our episodic thank you to Butch Hubbard, Jessup Broadcasting, WIFO, and WLOP, Wonderful Land of Progress, for the use of the sound studio for all our podcast recording. And we didn't talk about Dr. Ellis, which is the Ellis Gibbs house. Dr. Ellis.
Look at me. I'm okay.
Ellis Gibbs was one of the dentists, and his daughter was Lily Ellis Dean, who was Roscoe's mother.
Oh, okay.
And they sold the house to the Gibbs.
Ben and Florence.
To Ben and Florence, and
Right.
that's why it's the Ellis Gibbs house.
Okay.
And then it got to be the Ellis Gibbs Leapart house. So he was a local dentist, and Bartow Parkerson
Yes.
was one of the local dentists, and he was in with Dr. Larry Bennett.
Right.
And Dr. Bennett was,
And Doug
too
County.
bad Melba's not here, because he's old county Bennett's
Yeah.
also. And he was one of my favorite things about Dr. Bennett was he knew everything about everybody, and he didn't mind sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to be really careful about Dr. Bennett, because he told the truth,
Oh,
the whole
yes.
truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God. And
He was
What-
also very active in mental health.
He would love to be
Yeah.
around
Well,
today
that's
to
funny.
see all the stuff, because we would go to all these. I was dealing with the DD population, what they used to call it, the old MR population.
Yeah.
So with that, and we'd have a lot of stuff for the Mental Health Association. I was a member of that too. But we'd go to those wellness clinics, and we'd always have in our table, everybody would walk around it because it was mental health. They never would stop. But nowadays, that's the end thing, the mental health. So he would really love finally seeing it come full circle.
Oh, yeah.
well, the swim team practiced at their house for years.
Oh,
and
yes. I
years.
hated that pool.
And
It scared me.
and had his own tennis courts by his house.
Yes.
And so I don't remember any of the other older
He-
dentists
well,
besides them.
No, well, he and his wife Jan were friends with my grandparents, Martha Lee and Warner Gibbs, and they used to. So my grandparents owned the little yellow house on on Mahogany Street, close to the school, that is across from the Murphy house, because Mama had to babysit all the Murphy children apparently. But and then there were some apartments, some two-story apartments. The Hugheses lived in them a while back. Bruce Hughes and them.
By the Murphys?
No, it's right there on Mahogany Street, the corner of Bay and Mahogany. There's a little yellow house on the left. It's across from the Boys and Girls Club type. There's
Okay,
a
okay.
red brick house. Okay. So Mom and them lived in that, and then there were two apartments right there. They were two-story, and Sarah and Harold Paul lived in them when they first got married. I think Sarah James and maybe Mr. Tom lived in them. I'm not sure, but I know Dr. Bennett and Jan lived in it when they first got married. And so they all became good friends. And Mama will tell you that, he was another one that if anything was new with the dentistry world, he wanted to use Mama. Sometimes I think she was his first person to be bonded, like have their teeth bonded. I was actually the last. I got hit in the mouth with a golf club when I was about 8.
Wonder
and you
why.
want to talk about it was not on purpose. Don't even. But anyhow, I remember that day quite clearly going in there, and I was crying the whole time. You're talking about being traumatic. Crying the whole time, and he says, Courtney, honey, if you don't sit still, and I was, pardon my French, it's nothing bad, but I was going, damn, Lawrence, damn. And he said, I'm telling you, honey, if you want your teeth to be straight, you're going to sit still. And because some of my teeth had moved back, he took his thumb and he pushed my bottom row of teeth forward.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a lot. But anyhow, I loved the man. I mean, he was great. He always had a good joke to tell. And I remember one of the last times I saw him, he was riding his trike bike or whatever you want to call it. I can't remember. There's a certain name for him.
Recumbent bike.
That's right. You lay down in it, kind of.
I don't know how that works.
And he was just pedaling
That's so
down Palm
clumsy
Street.
looking.
And I thought, Lord, that man's going to get hit. And I know he was 90.
Yeah.
And I went out there and he says, honey, I can't see, who is it? And I said, it's Courtney, Dr. Bennett. He goes, oh, hey, darling, how you doing? And I said, you aren't worried about getting hit? He goes, well, that's why I got this flag right here. And if they don't slow down, I guess it's my time. I'm like, okay.
When he was in the hospital, in the hospice suite at the same, he's so very matter of fact.
Yeah.
And so, death is inevitable, and he didn't dread it. So my sister Karen went to see him, and I couldn't go for whatever reason. And she told him that I said hello and that I wasn't able to come. He said, well, tell her to come to the funeral. And I did. But that was just him. He was just that.
I'll tell you one
boom.
thing he did that did not work out when I was going to see him. He was one of the first dentists in the area that decided to try, instead of giving you anesthesia to work on your teeth, he would play music.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have made that.
Well, he didn't play music
the
for
pain
me.
overcame the music.
I can see where that wouldn't work. That would not work. We haven't talked about Wayne Family Practice and
No.
the man with the medicine in his pocket, Dr. Ollie O. McGahee. I love Dr. McGahee. You never knew what he was going to be. If he dispensed it, if he was going to tell you needed this certain medicine, he would go find it. And usually he had so many samples in his pocket that he could pull something out.
He wrapped my broken arm when I was 3. I remember that was the first time I ever
You've
met
had
him.
a lot of injuries, haven't you?
I was accident prone.
You seem to be.
Yeah,
I know.
you
Mom was
were,
afraid
you
they were going
are.
to call defects
Teeth
on
knocked
her.
out.
So Dr. McGahee and Dr. Purser and Dr. Elliott,
Dr. Hine,
Dr. Hine, Dr. Cown.
Dr. Phillips.
Dr.
Dr.
Miller
Phillips,
delivered
he's
me.
just recently retired and left me doctorless.
Do y'all remember Dr. Miller? He delivered me.
Yes.
Dr. Harper.
Dr. who?
Harper.
Dr. Harper.
Dr. Moody. Dr.
No,
Moody delivered
Moody.
me. Dr. Miller delivered Joey.
Yeah.
Dr. Miller delivered
TW.
my oldest daughter.
Dr. Miller delivered me.
He was into babies, I guess.
He
a
was
lot.
he played catch a lot. I don't know who else. What other
I said
doctors
TW.
have we not
That's
mentioned?
Dr. Williams. Tom.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, Tom
Dr.
Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good one.
Well, you had
We
Levy
got-
in with Williams.
We were running out of.
Yeah.
Dr. Brantley.
Oh yeah, Dr.
I-
Brantley. We cannot forget Dr. Brantley.
McGuire.
We're gonna
Yeah,
be in
McGuire
trouble with
lady, yeah.
people.
Yes.
He was quite the tennis player. So, all right,
Coach.
Pamela, you got anything to add? We're ready to wrap up here.
Nope, I'm good.
Are we happy? Anybody got any last words before we say adieu?
I do.
You do?
I know I do.
We're gonna have to bring Derby back. He's got that dry humor. We got that dry humor. All right,
I'll tell you
then.
a quick story real quick about Dr. Pompeli. I forgot to tell you. Mama
Oh,
wanted me
you
to
got
make sure
another
to tell
story?
you this. She said that she had gone to, she was in nursing school in Brunswick, and she hurt her leg, her upper thigh, in PE. So when she got home, she put a heating pad on it, and the next day she could hardly walk. She said she went to see Dr. Pompelli and asked her what she'd done it for, and she told him that she'd put the heat on it, and he looked at her and said, well, you have a torn hamstring, and the heat made it bleed and went into the tissue, but I guess you hadn't had that course yet, have you?
Bazinga.
They always had that kind of back and forth.
I think my sister Karen, our sister Karen, I forget Mark's in the room, but she was she's a nurse, and when she first came out of nursing school, she worked in the ER, and so she had dealings with all these, and she said they were something else, and that was back
there's a
in the
lot
day.
of stories about Wayne Memorial.
Yes, and they made rounds. They were traditional doctors. Not we didn't have hospitalists back then.
Well, maybe we can have another one so we can have our other guests that.
That's true.
Couldn't
We
make
can
it.
do the history of the hospital and all that. So
Yeah.
And, Dr. Bennett is the one that told me that he knew, my child Porter is named for Mom Gibbs' brother who died at 21. He was actually in medical school. He was from here. I mean, it was Porter Revel. And Dr. Bennett said, you know what? He and I were friends. I remember him. And I thought, wow, he was like, yeah, I remember playing with him. So, I'm sorry.
that's all right.
I just
Don't be
love Dr.
sorry.
Bennett.
Anecdotal memory is the best. So, all righty then. Well, I guess we're going to wrap up here.
John, are you going to
We're
say
on the
anything
final
else?
word. So
Okay.
this is it for episode 8. We'll let you know when it's going to drop. Follow us on Facebook, and make sure that you've listened to episodes 1 through 7. They're particularly good. I'm being told that people are listening all around. And
Thank you.
episode 7 dropped Monday, April whatever. No, April 27th.
And it's
And that was our Memorial Day.
And it's on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts.
On your podcast platforms. So, and that's it for it. Y'all say bye.
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 Y'all aren't very good at bye.
Thank
Y'all
you.
try that again. Bye.
Kimmy,
Bye. I mean,
Thank
I'll
you.
sit bye.
All
You're
right.
not gonna say good night, John boy.
Oh, I didn't think about that. What? Good night, Gracie. George Burns.
The Waltons.
Yeah.
The Waltons.
Yeah. all
I know,
that.
but I went to George Burns. He
Yeah,
would say
good
good
night,
night, George.
Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night,
I-
Gracie. Yeah.
I'm older than you.
I was about to say I'm too young for
I knew
that.
what you were talking about.
Thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed today's Mad About Wayne podcast. For more information on the Wayne County, Georgia Historical Society, please visit our Facebook page. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you receive notifications when a new episode is released. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you again soon. Remember, we're mad about Wayne.